arms divine. My future, but I choose a night. I say we keep it real quiet. Neon flashing on my door, lightning struck here once before, but I'm older now, don't take me for a fool. Ooh, ooh, neon snaking up the door like lightning in a perfect storm. I'll be here when you're long gone, just like I was here before. Or cool change, give me those hands, put them on my body, no chains. I don't need you, but you make me crazy. Talking to myself at night, making myself crazy. Out of my mind, out of my mind. Wrote it down and read it out, hoping it would save me. Too many times, my love. He makes me feel like nobody else, nobody else but my love. He doesn't love me, so I tell myself one, don't pick up the phone. You know he's only calling cause he's drunk and alone. 2, don't let him in, you have to kick him out again. 3, don't be his friend. You know you're gonna wake up in his bed in the morning, and if you're under him, you ain't getting over him.
Let me look at your fashion. Let me just take it in that you are here because I'm such a big fan. Look at you.
Oh my God, that's so cool. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, same, Lisa. I mean, I should have known you long before, Lisa, because you have been releasing amazing music for a few years now. I mean, the Prairie Songs EP, I mean, what's the word I'm looking for, Lisa? Oh yeah, freaking awesome. Like, oh my God, I love it so much. I mean, Cool Change, Tom Petty, Eden, it's all wonderful stuff. And
thank you.
Of course, Lisa. And the one you just released in 2020 as well, Stella, I'm Bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes your great songwriting and gives it a little bit extra like punch, a little bit extra rock and roll.
Thank you.
And a little bit of R&B. It's just a really beautiful thing, Lisa. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's so cool that you've heard everything. I think for me especially, the Prairie Fire Sessions EP was just like I was going to play a big festival here in Australia, and it was sort of the first thing I'd done. And I just thought I need to have something recorded that I could give people so they remember they saw me and whatever.
Right.
And yeah, it's really cool. It somehow got all the way over to you in Nashville, right? That's where you're based.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's super cool. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Everyone starts everyone huge has that story that you just told me.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah, cool. Good.
So that's like a checkbox on the road. Checkbox.
Yeah, cool.
I love it.
That's amazing. Thank you.
So before we get started, how are things in Australia, right? Like, why don't you give us a COVID update because from the land down under? Because I don't think we've had Aussie guests since like September, August-ish.
Yeah.
And so how are things over there?
Well, especially since September or August, things are very different, I think. It's actually, this sounds really bad to say, especially I know you're calling in from America, and I have a lot of friends in the US that I talk to, and I know things are not great right now. But we're almost back to business as usual over here.
Good for you.
Yeah, so we're still doing the we have like check-ins, which is different state to state. But so I'm here in New South Wales, which is Sydney. Right. And we've got like a sort of just a single government, which I guess sounds a bit scary, but it's actually been working really well. Like a single government check-in. So stores and restaurants and things have like a QR code at the entrance of their stores. You check in, and then that way it makes it really easy for them to track, whoever else they need to get in contact with, and it seems to be working well. Okay. So, yeah,
I love it. Well, you guys have been ahead of the curve with all this stuff. So, and you guys are doing concerts now. I've seen like videos and images.
Yeah,
like, unbelievable.
Yeah, it was sort of a strange pivot, I guess, for someone like me who's sort of starting for all intents and purposes. The Prairie Fire Sessions was sort of the first thing I'd properly released, which was 2019, and then obviously 2020 I was like, yeah, this is my year, and then it was nobody's year. But especially for someone like me, it was a really interesting pivot, because you sort of go from being like, all right, we're like just getting started, we're releasing this stuff, and then everything kind of, I think for me and like people in my position, I guess, who are just sort of starting out, was actually kind of good because it felt like a bit of room to breathe. Like, okay, I don't have to have everything done. I don't have to have a release. I don't have to have, I can just record some things in my house, and that's what everyone's doing right now. So it's okay. But yeah, concerts and things are kind of more or less back to usual. I don't know about dancing. For a while, you weren't allowed to dance at big concerts, like they were seated, and I think that's still happening.
Okay, so dancing is still allowed. It's like dirty dancing.
I think so. Yeah. I think it's like,
okay.
I think it might be state to state, but I think here you're not allowed to dance yet.
Yeah, dancing is like the holy grail, I guess. All right.
I know. Yeah, we're waiting for the day. I went to one concert, one festival, actually in Queensland, the state above mine, which was like the first concert in the state that you were allowed to dance at. There was like a crowd, and it actually felt so weird. It was like, oh God, it's like, don't come close to me. Like, it was, especially after living a year, like, where you don't want anyone near you. It was really strange.
What a strange conversation we're having. But yeah, you know what I mean? It's like,
totally.
I can't, like, what dystopian nightmare is this? But yeah.
I know. What world do we live in?
Oh my God, Lisa. But listen, I mean, your story is so fascinating on so many levels. But the first thing that sticks out is how damn good you are at songwriting and guitar. And yet you only picked it up in 2017. Is that right?
Yeah. So I had the song Stella, actually, the one that I released last year, was from an EP, the first thing I ever recorded, which I think was recorded in, I want to say 2015, but I might be wrong. And that was my first EP, and it ended up being shelved, basically. Just there was issues with the studio and the people involved and all kinds of things. Common story that you hear, especially for up and comers. It just got shelved, and there were some songs on that I was really proud of, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to release them if I think they're in keeping with what I'm doing musically down the track.
Sure.
So Stella's actually was like the first thing I did musically, and then basically once that all happened, that the record got shelved, and I felt like all of a sudden I had an EP that I was like, what do I do with this? I don't know how to release it. I don't know how to tour it. I don't have a team. I didn't really know anyone yet who was a musician, so I didn't really know what to do. And I think that's a really common thing, especially if you're just starting, that you're like, well, actually, how do people do this? Like, where do you get a team from? Where do you get, So I basically was in like a sulk about it. I was like, I don't know what to do. My record got shelved. It's been crap. And I had a friend who was, some friends who were like full-time professional street performers. They just travel the world and perform at festivals, like busking, and that's their lifestyle. It's not the lifestyle for me, but I thought it was very cool, and I spent some time with them in 2017. Probably it was the year that I found out that my EP had been shelved, and that there was like the masters had been lost. There was like no way to recreate it live. It was horrible. And so I just found out a few weeks before, and I was in a really bad place. I spent some time with those guys. And I realized that there was ways to make music work for yourself. You don't have to have like a team and, all this stuff behind you.
All this corporate,
Exactly. And I think I felt like I really needed that because I felt scared. Like I didn't know how to approach things. So spent some time with them. Ruben Stone, especially, who's like a looper, like he does live looping. He's from New Zealand, and some of his friends that he travels with. And I spent some time with them and thought, I'm going to learn to play guitar. So I went out the next week and I bought a guitar, and to make myself learn to play, I just started booking gigs for, I think, 6 weeks after I bought it, like covers gigs. So just, I learned to play music, like guitar, especially, just through like stubbornness and force of will.
Unbelievable, Lisa. But I'd love to unwrap there. So I mean, did you always know you were geared towards music? Let's go back to the beginning. Did you grow up in a musical household?
Not really. So my dad's a big music fan. I grew up listening to his music taste, which is like The Doors and David Bowie and Iggy Pop. Then my sister is a guitarist, and I think that's also why I hadn't really played. You kind of, especially as sisters and siblings, and I'm the younger sibling, and there's some degree of always like doing what your older sibling does. And I think for a long time I was like, guitar's Lana's thing. I'm going to let her have that and like, you know, not do that for
Right.
myself kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But no, not really. I played a bunch of instruments because I always had dreams that like one day Placebo was going to knock on my door and be like, Lisa, we need you to play in the band.
Right.
So, it hasn't happened yet, but like, watch this space.
I mean, they could use you, honestly. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Someone tell Brian Molko, my musical hero from my teenage years. But I tried a bunch of instruments, just never found anything that stuck. I started singing probably when I was 17 and I wasn't really taking it very seriously. It was just something to do. I was really shy. So it was like a confidence builder.
Yeah.
And then I did some corporate shows through my singing teacher. I got auditions. And so my first job out of high school was singing like doo-wops or like 3-piece harmony, a cappella stuff. And then, yeah, I sort of, it was kind of not a great environment. It was like, you know, it was very competitive and not really the kind of music I listened to. And I sort of did that for a little while and then thought, that's it, I quit music. So I've quit music, I think like twice. That was the first time. And then the second time was when the EP got shelved. Right. And I was like, no, I like it. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm just going to buy a guitar.
Well, I hope it's clear now, Lisa, that like you can't quit music. You are music. That's your purpose.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you sort of, I think for a long time I didn't feel very clear about what my purpose was at all. And then once I sort of started singing, it became a little bit clearer. And then as I got older, I felt like, all right, I'm discovered songwriting. It's all the things I like, all combined. I can dress like a cowboy, which is one of my interests. And it was just like, oh, all right, it's happening now. My mom recently, I had a setback with with COVID starting my first album.
Okay.
And I sort of started recording during COVID, and then everything changed, and my budget changed, my financial situation changed. I couldn't play gigs, which is like, cover gigs and things, and my bread and butter. It's like my day job.
Yeah.
So it really changed my finances. And I was like, that's it. I had another one of those tantrums that I seem to have like once every 10 years. And, was like, is this a sign that I should quit music? And my mom was like, stupid thing to say is that? Like, no, it's just COVID. Like,
no.
Yeah, we got there.
If anything, Lisa, it's like when things open back up and people start listening to your music, and which, by the way, really, like I played this to a couple people, and the expression is always like, "Oh my God!" Everyone's eyes just burst open. So that's cool. What you do to people. So the more people hear it, that's gonna happen more, and nothing's gonna knock you down anymore because you've been through the shit already. It's like what you've been through: a pandemic, masters, bullshit. Like what the fuck? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like nothing's gonna.
That's true. Oh, that's so cool. That's really nice. Thank you. Yeah, I feel, I think, you have my first experience with the EP was really bad. And, I've dealt with like a lot of difficult personalities and things that make you go, oh, people I've been through all of it at this point. And I feel like, I'm ready to get started properly. So I've been working on this album while COVID's been happening, and
You're ready to roll. I love it.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked about, there's so much. I told you, your story is so fascinating, but we haven't even talked about the punk band when you were young, right? When you played in a punk band. What was the name of this punk band, and what type of music did you all play?
So I actually played in a bunch of different bands, and none of them really did very much. Like we weren't like bands that were touring or anything like that. It was just like finding my feet musically, I guess. So my background, even actually until quite recently, has been in the folk punk scene, which weirdly is a scene. I didn't know it was a scene until they kind of picked me up. But I kind of came from, I really liked quite hardcore music when I was younger. And then from there, I ended up in, a band probably similar to like Versa Emerge, I guess, female vocalist, really heavy music. And then into like an indie band. And then from being in that, kind of another rock band, I guess. I don't know. I've just been through all these. What I think is really weird about this is that you asked me if I had a musical background, and the answer is I was like, no, I don't think so. But all of these things were just like they came up. Someone heard me sing and was like, do you want to be in this band? And then maybe that band broke up and some of the members went over here. Or I wasn't taking it seriously at all. I did not think I was going to be in bands or doing music. It was just like something fun to do to like pass the time with my friends, you know.
So great.
Yeah, but the folk punk crowd I still play with, so it's like a combination of you know, Sydney especially has a really good scene for it, Sydney and Melbourne, which is like a combination of people who play in like punk bands, but then do like unplugged sort of folk versions of their songs, and then people like me who are a bit more like I don't know, alt country, I guess. We call it that here because we can't say Americana, I guess, because we're not Americans, I suppose.
No, but
you know,
Americana is a way of life. But yeah, like there's so much good music coming out of Australia. It's pretty fascinating, Lisa.
Yeah.
And speaking of America, tell me a little bit about how did you end up here, right? Because you have this transformative period in your life, both creatively and emotionally, that you were here in America for quite a few years. Was it like love? Was it just a love thing?
So yeah, I mean, basically, so basically what happened was I had a boyfriend who lived in Arkansas, and so I moved to Arkansas of all places.
So stop right there.
Yeah.
Where does one go to meet someone from Arkansas?
To meet someone from Arkansas?
Like even I don't know that.
I don't know. I know. I was a tour guide in Sydney for about 5 years, and in that time I met one person from Arkansas.
Okay.
But so I was backpacking when I turned 20. I picked up, you know, just some stuff, threw it in a bag, and I went backpacking for a few months in the US on my own, and it was like my first solo trip. And then while I was on the plane home, I actually met.
Hold on, Lisa. Like you're the most fascinating guest, like all week. Hold on. So you were backpacking in the U.S. What was like that? Like without going into details, what was that experience like? How long?
It was amazing.
How long you did that for?
The first trip I think was 2 months.
2 months.
And that's who I am as a person, though. Is like I make decisions that seem like snap decisions, but I've actually been thinking about them for a long time, and I'll do anything that just seems like, if it could be cool, I'll do it. I'm not foolhardy, and I do things on my own, and I'm like 5 feet tall and small. I look like a Disney character. Like,
no, I would go to battle. I don't know why, but I would go to battle with you. I don't know what battle.
Thank you.
But I'm like, I'm on Team Lisa, dude. Like forever.
Thank you.
100%. Yes.
Well, I'm on Team Jamie. Here we go.
Thank you.
We'll find some fights and we'll fight them.
We'll fight them. We'll find them. So you went to Arkansas in that trip, I assume?
No, I was actually, I think I was flying back out of Canada, and I was going like Canada, I think maybe Montreal, Los Angeles, and then Australia. And while I was on that flight, I met the band Little Feat, who were like, I think a 60s, 70s. I'm going to feel really bad if I've gotten their dates wrong, but they're like a bluesgrass sort of band. And they're older guys. I met them on that plane or at the airport beforehand, and then I met their crew, and basically that was how I ended up. They kind of invited me to come just like hang out for a couple of days at a few different venues. I started seeing someone on their crew, and then it all kind of went from there. And so eventually I moved to Arkansas, and then, you know, I kind of snowballed from there, I suppose. I ended up in the US, and then did some stuff I ended up in Europe. I had a relationship in Arkansas that went really badly.
Didn't work out. Yeah.
But like really badly, didn't work out. By the time I got to Arkansas, things had kind of gotten bad, and I ended up in a situation that I felt was quite dangerous for me.
In Arkansas?
And so I packed my bags. I packed my bags and I left in the middle of the night, and I got on a bus. I think I got on a bus, and then I got on a plane, and I basically took myself to Europe because I had a friend in Germany, and I thought I couldn't afford to get home. It was right before Christmas. And a lot of my money had been tied up in that bad situation before. And so, I ended up in Germany for a little while, and then
in Belgium, right? In a bench as well.
And then I ended up in Belgium. I started in Amsterdam, and then I couldn't afford it, and I wanted to see this friend, so I went to Germany. And then that story culminates with me just completely running out of money and sleeping on a train station bench in Belgium, until my poor frantic mother in Australia, who didn't know that I was sleeping on a train station bench, I should say. Like, I didn't want to worry her. She's my best friend. I just was like, oh, it's fine, Mom. You know,
Right.
I didn't tell her. When I've told this story on stage before, she's like, I feel really bad that people think that I let you sleep on a bench, but like she didn't know. So my
Right.
poor mother back home then managed to get me a flight back home, and I couldn't get the flight directly from Europe because I'd left some stuff with actually a stranger who became a very good friend. I left my bags and things in Texas, with like a friend of a friend who had been like, she can help you if you're in a bad situation. So I went and got my bags back from her, and she ended up coming to Australia to meet up with me a few years later, met the love of her life in my hometown, and they eloped, and now they live in Texas. So I go back and forth.
Unbelievable.
Like,
Unbelievable.
but yeah, so my mom got me back home, but I had to go I did Arkansas, Texas, Amsterdam, Berlin, Belgium. We're in Belgium. I'm having a blank and I can't remember. It doesn't matter. And then I came back to Texas, and then I came home.
You know,
and then I was traumatized.
You're the only person in the history of 2021 years that actually puts those cities in that same sentence.
In that same sentence. Yeah,
you're a unique
totally.
unicorn. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh man. No, but listen, what a great story. What a great story, Lisa.
Yeah.
And like, all kidding aside, what I said, all these things,
Mhm.
beautiful, because tough skin, and
Totally.
you're still in the beginning stages of your career, and as soon as this is open and you have the music, you have the coolness, you have the vibe, it's like
Thank you. Oh, that's so cool.
like nothing. I'm sorry, pardon my French, but nothing's gonna fucking stop you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I can't. So that's gonna be great, Lisa. And
Totally.
tell me a little bit about this Steve Kilby, because we had him on the show. We had him on the show
Oh
last
my
year.
God, you had Steve Kilby.
We had Steve
Oh,
Kilby. He was in the hotel room. Cool
oh,
guy.
he's great, isn't he? He's so
Yes.
cool, and he's so dry. Like, he's really funny, and
Yes.
I was expecting to be terrified of him. Like,
Right.
he is actually so cool.
Funny you mentioned that, because I remember it was a while ago, but I remember doing research that we were like, "Ooh, is this gonna be a good one?" And he was a great one. Yeah.
He's great, right? So that happened because, oh my God, I feel like everything in my life is just a series of weird coincidences. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep this as quick as I can, but basically,
Or the
someone got in
universe
touch
is with
me.
you, Lisa. I'm sorry to
That's what
interrupt.
I think it is. Yeah,
What
I
are
always feel like,
coincidences?
man after my own heart. I feel the same way. I think one of my mottos to myself that I never really say out loud, but I think in my head all the time, is follow your coincidences. The right things present themselves. But so I went out on an outback tour with Steve Kilby out into the Australian desert because we were locked down in our states. So all the borders shut, which is a pain because my boyfriend is from another state. So we did all of last year apart, which was brutal. But we could only go as far as the New South Wales border. And I don't know if you've ever seen a map of the states in Australia, but we have a country that's huge, and we only have a handful of states in it. So all the states are big. So I say we couldn't go outside of New South Wales, but we still drove 10 hours, before we even came close to the border. And so we went out to the outback, what you see, the red earth and just the flat land. It was magic. We did a trip out there on a big tour bus with a handful of other creative types. Basically, it was ostensibly to make a documentary, but then I don't know if the documentary actually turned into anything, because it turned out that most of the people using the cameras, we were all just it was a team of creative folks. It was musicians and visual artists and performers and actors. We had a guy who is a great drummer and also a set builder for the Sydney Theatre Company. We had all these great people, but it turned out that none of us really knew how to use a camera, and it was meant to be very
having a good time. There were probably drinks, or probably drugs going around. It is what it is. Good times.
Not for me, but there were those things.
Of course.
But we basically also, it turned out afterwards, I spoke to the guy who had shot most of it. I said, so what's the footage like? And he was like, oh, I don't know. We shot a lot of it in slow-mo by accident. I was like, okay. So we just went on this trip that was very transformative, to use your word from earlier. A very transformative experience out in the desert. We filmed a lot of things, and we set some cars on fire and painted some stuff in the outback, and it was really amazing. And so I got to open a few shows for Steve. We had done a little strange short film together where he was the star in it, and I had written some of the soundtrack, so they just wrote me in like a little role for it. And so we had met, and it turned out she had a real interest in metaphysical things and alien stories, and so he and I, and especially his girlfriend, really hit it off. And then so I went on this tour with them and the other crew, and we went out to Broken Hill, which was where Priscilla Queen of the Desert, the Priscilla Queen of the Desert pub, we played a show there, and it was very cool. The first 2 days I was like, oh my God, it's Steve Kilbey. Like, oh my God, don't look at him. But because but he was actually so cool and friendly. He wrote me a song, actually.
Oh,
so
wow.
He's written a song for me that was really nice. He sent it to me a few weeks ago, and I've got to get it recorded. But yeah, like
what a great guy.
Lisa De Angelis doing Steve Kilbey. Yeah.
Lisa, you're full of great stories. This is, we gotta, I could talk to you for days. It seems. Let's talk about your songwriting, because unbelievable. What a great human and artist. But yeah, your voice, Lisa. Your voice is amazing. Your charisma clearly as well. But to me, what sets you apart to another level is your songwriting. It just gives me like the chills. Like when you write a song like Buddy Holly, for example, the character, whether it's you or not, is pouring itself out into the paper with such bravery, such openness, and it's like a universal feeling, Lisa, to be loved, right?
Yeah.
Is it hard to write such a raw song like this for you, or is it just like part of the process, part of the job?
Writing it was easy. Playing that song was very hard. Getting up in, I think that part of the reason I never thought that I was going to be a musician was because it was really hard for me to be honest. I had not honest, but I had a really hard time being like, yes, this happened to me and this is my story. I felt like I didn't have necessarily the life experiences when I was younger, and also I felt like I didn't want to put myself forward that much. And then after everything sort of happened with Arkansas going really badly, and that brief spell of homelessness, and coming out of like quite abusive relationship and all that sort of thing, I realized that the only way to get past things for myself, the best way for me to deal with them, was to just start writing them. And then in turn from there, it's that universal thing, right? That you write something and other people go, I've been through the same, or I feel the same way. And you get community in that way. Buddy Holly, I woke up and wrote in the middle of the night because I was experiencing a period a couple of years ago, just before that EP was released, where I felt like I just can't make it work. I can't make relationships work. I don't know if it's me, but if I'm the common denominator, it must be me,
Right.
I just am not meeting anyone that I feel good about. And when I do, it doesn't last long, or things that I think a lot of people go through. So writing it, I sort of woke up in the middle of the night and I was really upset, and I just got up and wrote it, and it came out like a gift from God, just like, it's not usually that easy. It just came right out. But then I was really proud of it. I was like, what a beautiful song. And then I got up to play it maybe a week later and felt deeply vulnerable about it, being like, oh my God,
right.
now I have to own this. Like, now I have to look at people in an audience and tell them that, like, I'm
be vulnerable,
shit at relationships or whatever, like, and that was what was tricky about that song. But I'm very proud of it. I feel proud for being able to say that.
It's a great song. Lisa, you got to come to Nashville next time you come to the US, because
I would love to.
It's like you would fit in here just perfectly. I feel like.
Oh, thanks.
People like you, celebrate it.
Thank you. Yeah, we my partner and I talk about it all the time. He's like a drummer for a bunch of country bands.
Perfect.
And we talk about all the time that we want to go to Nashville, and then of course COVID hit.
Right. And Lisa, before you play a song for us, which I think you will, what does that tattoo say on your right arm? which is,
Oh my gosh.
love
Yeah.
it, love it. Like, yeah, what's the story with that one?
Do you know what? Okay, so this tattoo, this was the second tattoo I ever got, and I got it right before that first backpacking trip. Because I was going out into the world on my own, and first thing I was doing by myself. And it's from a book that I had just read. It's one of my favorite books by an author named Tom Robbins. It's from a book called Jitterbug Perfume, and I've never heard it said aloud, so I'm not 100% sure how you say it. I say Erleichter, but I don't know.
That's what sounds fancy. So
sounds fancy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's basically from that book. It's the idea is that it's like a word from a lost Bohemian language, and it means it's the secret to like living forever, the secret to a happy life, and it means lighten up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of you, and that is part of you, Lisa. I'm telling you, Lisa De Angelis. Like, we knew about the music, we were not prepared about all the colors radiating from your soul. Like,
Thank
amazing.
You. Oh my God, that's so nice.
No. I mean that, and I never say that. Like, I can tell that you have pink sometimes you're brown, sometimes you're red, yellow. You have a little bit of everything. What a great soul you are, Lisa. Fantastic.
Thank you. Oh my God, likewise. This has been so lovely. Thank you.
Totally.
Thank you for being so as someone who actually knows about music as well, for being so validating. It's really cool. Like, somebody who sees people and meets people, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, Lisa. So what are you going to play for us?
Thank you. So I actually think I hadn't really picked what I was going to play. I just sort of thought I'd see what the vibe felt like once I got on here.
Right.
Oh, what do I do with this? I thought I'd give you clearer audio quality by having headphones on, and now I don't know how it's going to go around my guitar. But now that we've been talking about it,
guitar.
Isn't it? It's an Australian company called Cole Clark.
Look at that.
They only made 2 of these, and it was made actually for a woman who became a tutor of mine, I suppose, a woman named Lynn Botel. And they made it for her, and then there was an issue in the wood. There's some kind of some inconsistency in the grain. So they made her a second one because it was like a surprise for her. And years later, I was with her actually in Tamworth under her tutelage at the Academy of Country Music in Tamworth, which is like our Nashville. And I ducked out in my lunch break to go buy a guitar because I was like, no, I've tried all these guitars. I'm going to buy one. I walked into the music store and was like, oh my God, that's it. Give me that. And I just bought it on the spot. And I brought it back and was like, look what I got. And she was like, holy shit, I thought there was only one of those. And she got her guitar out of its case and it was the same guitar. So weird. But so this is a song called Wander Home. This is actually the story condensed. I often like to joke, I guess, that it's all my poor life choices reimagined as like a happy. So I mean, everything is happy. I should say that. But it's the story of that trip from Arkansas to Europe.
I was born on an autumn morning while the tricky wind was blowing. It calls to me and sleeping in my bones. I'm like a river, smoothing stones, never knowing quite where I'm going. Tempered by a fire that's in my blood, and I'd walk down any road just to see how far it goes. And I get lonesome, I know my way back home. I wander home, I wander home, I wander home, I wander home. Well, some years ago I left to learn what I don't know. Let the kindness of strangers hold me as I go. I met this man, I pushed my large silver tongue in a pickup truck. But his hands were tired when he was holding me. So I packed my bags and left that night. But the taxi's caught a flight. I called my mama and I made my way back home. I wander home, I wander home, I wander home, I wander home. I'm gonna go out on a story, I'm gonna go out on a song. I'm gonna make death quake to take me when I'm done. Cause if there's one real thing I know, it's time will come and time will go. And nothing changes if you don't change along the road. So I'll choose true and I'll choose wise. And if I don't, we'll still got time. Fill my lungs, and when I'm done, I wander home. 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 I fill my lungs, and when I'm done, I wander home.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Thank
So
you.
good. So good, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you for that
Thank you so
amazing
much.
performance, and thank you for your time. That was epic.
Thank you for your time. It's been honestly such a pleasure. I really appreciate it. I can't express how lovely it's been talking to you.
Same, same. And you know what? Like, yeah, you're friends, you're a friend of the show, and forget the distance. The soul is there. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jamie. Such a pleasure.
absolutely. Have a great rest of your day, Lisa.
Thank you. Good night.